All right, so first we have cases like this. They're trying to really redefine the interior look, the exterior modifications to appear modern, to appear less conventional. But then there's Silverstone that comes out with this, totally bringing sleeper vibe energy with the FLP02. FLP. Are they trying to go for floppy? It looks like something out of the 90s for sure that will be able to run Doom, but with 2025 hardware. And strangely, these two cases have a lot more in common than I realized. Like, one of them is trying to redefine what the future of a mid-tower looks like, while the other one is trying to bring back the classics. Like, aside from the awesome beige and zero temper glass, we have real 5¼ drive bays. And I've seen so many people commenting about wanting this for potential extra storage, DVD drives, etc., and different accessories, including this awesome fan controller slash power button slash an actual lock. Let us lock our power button so we cannot accidentally shut down the system. Awesome. Then we have this awesome screen that displays our real life fan information in terms of like how fast the fans are spinning, but we also have a turbo button, which is basically panic mode for your thermals. All of this is kind of useless, but so awesome for that retro flex, and our actual I/O is hidden behind a magnetic cover that is super high quality with dual USB-A, Type-C, and a headphone jack. From the outside, this 5¼ drive bay cover seems to be quite simple, but when you look behind the mechanism, it seems to be like almost over-engineered, because this entire mechanism is screwed in so it can be replaced later. Let's say if one of the plastics breaks, and it has this very satisfying open and close mechanism. Perhaps not entirely necessary, but I respect it. And also, not even being able to see your hardware is just a giant middle finger to the current state of case design that I gotta say, Silverstone is maybe onto something, because most of the conventional glass boxes are kind of starting to feel outdated, maybe except for this one. So this is the Montech HS02. Weird name, but man, they're doing some awesome things here that really redefine what a modern mid-tower should look like, and that what it should feel like too, on the outside and on the inside. For example, they've redesigned the interior layout to be almost like a dual chamber by placing the power supply in front of your motherboard, therefore clearing out all the space underneath the motherboard and your graphics card to breathe. There's definitely priority on the visuals with the HS series, but I don't mind that. Modern hardware gets hot, but it's designed to run hot anyway, so as long as there is some airflow going on, you should be totally fine with a nice CPU cooler or a 360 AIO. And that is exactly what the Silverstone case is capable of too. A 360 at the top with some caveats because the installation is not as easy. Massive GPUs with anti-GPU sag bracket included that supports it, with 2 storage brackets in this chamber if your GPU length allows it. And the case comes with 3 120mm fans, 1 in the rear and 2 at the front, so the airflow out of the box is not going to be totally compromised. The front fan bracket can only accommodate dual 120mm fans, which are pre-installed, and looking at the back, you can see the bracket is completely open for best possible airflow. Now, interestingly, the frame has 2 positions for our fan bracket, although the default one is the only one that is officially supported. There's not even a mention of this rotation in the user manual. So we do this, we rotate the bracket, we have to remove our top section here for the 5¼ drive base so that the fan bracket can slide in. And there it is. In this position, the fans are higher, but it makes no sense because we're blocking the top fan with the 5¼ drive bay cover anyway, and there's no ventilated cover included. So this is more of maybe a remnants of a previous frame that Silverstone has, and doesn't really work with the FLP02. It is a little strange that this is not even listed in the instructions manual, but just know that this is an option.
It starts with nothing, just a pulse, waiting to become something more. A sound that bends space, a curve that cuts through silence, a moment that pulls you in. This isn't just what you hear, it's what you feel. The tension before the drop, the calm before the win. Because every feeling, every world, every heartbeat has an origin. The Fractal Scape, check it out below.
Interestingly, the case will support 3 120mm fans at the top, so a 360 radiator. It will support dual 140s or dual 160mm fans, which is really awesome because Silverstone actually sells 160mm fans as well. The only problem with this frame layout is because of our 5¼ drive bays that are at the front, our regular fan placement isn't as offset closer to the side panel. Therefore, even with my standard radiator placement and my slightly thicker fans at 28mm, I had trouble routing that 8-pin right above the motherboard because the radiator is like really pressed up against there. Now, this thing is not a cooling monster in any way. The GPU is perfectly fine because of the 2 front intake fans at the bottom. The CPU does get hotter than your traditional mid-tower because we don't have more intakes at the front, especially at the top side, and we also have that restriction with the 5¼ drive base. But when I did an actual gaming machine with the 5080 versus the HSO2, you can see they're pretty close in terms of temperatures, so I wouldn't worry too much as long as you're using like some decent cooling hardware and a decent enough GPU with a good cooler. And Silverstone is one of my favorite companies when it comes to dust filters because they make this like really fine mesh that is awesome for airflow and also excellent for catching dust particles. I wish the top ventilation pattern was slightly different to match the front. Here we just have the rectangulars that are on the 45-degree angle, and we have a beautiful high-performance dust filter right underneath that is removable. It's even labeled here at the front to avoid confusion on how to reinstall this back, and this has to face the top. I do find it odd that our side panels are completely bare. It's good they're pretty thick and they're not too flexible, but like some noise dampening material on the interior would have been awesome to strengthen an otherwise already good side panel and just to give it a bit more value because we don't have no glass, no ventilation mesh on the side panels either. So I would have expected slightly more. Now, as part of our accessories, I find it a little bit strange that we don't have an instructions manual. The online manual is good enough, I will give them that. Plus, the actual product page gives you all the listed specifications in terms of what can fit and where and how to work the front I/O with the button combination, including what the locking does. So I think Silverstone did a good job, although a manual still is missing. Come on. Here we just have a small baggie with some screws, the keys, and your fan extensions. That's about it. I also find it really odd that not all ATX motherboard standoffs are installed, so you have to dive in and do that yourself. At least the installation bit is included. Honestly, this feels kind of lazy. I've never seen Silverstone do this with motherboard standoffs before, so please fix this. Now, on the one hand, I appreciate the inclusion of this fan hub and the fact that you have all the controls at the front, but this placement is actually so odd. On the one hand, everything is easily accessible for routing your fans directly from the interior. You don't have to even open the rear side panel, and we have solid panels on both sides, so none of this is visible, but it is 2025, and I think we should expect some level of care from the brand when it comes to cable management, even when we have a completely solid side panel. Overall, I think this thing kicks ass from the general specifications, like good CPU cooler height, massive GPUs, good power supply compatibility, I would say good cooling compatibility, more storage than your traditional mid-tower just because of the 2 additional drive caddies inside the main chamber. So as long as your GPU length allows, or you can squeeze the GPU in between the 2 caddies, that is actually really good utilization of space, even though you're sacrificing a little bit on the airflow restriction with those hard drive cages. For some people, that doesn't matter when you can mount 2 more storage devices, you know? And the interior is mostly hassle-free in terms of assembly. I do appreciate the really beefy GPU anti-sag bracket mechanism that gives you support from both the top and the bottom, so it kind of sandwiches the GPU in between instead of just supporting it from the bottom. So that's kind of good if you're traveling with this thing. But when I look at this thing as a whole, including cable management, I feel like they should have done more. Like the rubber grommets are fine, but that's it. There is no advanced cable management system, routing channels kind of built in the back. It's all kind of very bare bones. Silverstone could have done a lot more to make the interior way more 2025 friendly, way more 360 radiator friendly, instead of just relying on the retro appeal on its own, because that's kind of the only thing that has this case going for it. Because at the price of over $200, you're looking at $239 US, which is incredibly expensive for this case. And I know it's kind of a niche thing and it's targeting a specific audience, but it is clearly isolating a lot of people who might want to gravitate towards something that is retro, that is trying to avoid any glass fish tank boxes, but this price is not going to attract a lot of people for sure. My biggest point of interest here is what will the competition borrow from the FLP02 and kind of sprinkle it through the mainstream. Like the unique front I/O configuration with a power button that is physical and gives you that poof, like I'm starting my PC. The built-in fan controller is awesome. The locking of the power button, all of these things are not new. For example, they can be found on my current daily case, the Pro Art. And I'm glad that Silverstone is bringing things like that back. But from a builder's point of view, like, are you willing to spend almost $250 for a retro-themed PC that doesn't do that much different on the interior versus your traditional mid-tower? And then we have cases like the Montech HS02, which is under $100. It's like $75, $80 without the fans, but the interior modifications and this like innovative layout design is just getting me excited to see the future where two of these enclosures, in terms of their concepts, can combine and give us something truly kind of nostalgic, but also modern at the same time. And that is my hope. All right, guys, I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video.